Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. We'll get started here in just a couple minutes. We're going to get started. I'm Chaplain Don Blomberg. I work mainly in Green Bay, but cover our Appleton and Cleveland outpatient clinics as well. But grief can be really difficult. And so I like to do a presentation called Grief in the Holidays. This presentation is recorded, so others that are not able to attend this morning can still participate. But as we think about grief, as we talk about grief, grief never ends. It changes. It's a passage, not a place to stay. Not a sign of weakness. Grief is really the price we pay for love. And so, quite honestly, it is painful at times. And as we think about it, Lamartine said, sometimes when one person is missing, the whole world seems depopulated. I think the holidays have a way of really forcing that issue for us and quite honestly make it extremely difficult. I like what Kessler says when he said every person's grief is as unique as their fingerprints. And I think we're reminded that, people grieve differently. If they don't grieve like I grieve, it doesn't not mean that they're grieving. And in families, that can be extremely difficult. C.S. Lewis also said it this way when he lost his wife. He says, "No one ever told me grief felt so much like fear." And so as we think about grief, we talk about what I refer to as the holiday bill of rights. This is some of the rights we have as we grieve. And I give you permission, I remind you it's okay to claim this bill of rights as you deal with grief and the holidays. First of all, you have a right to say time out. I need a time out. I need a break. I need to get away from it. And that's a part of this as we deal with grief. You have the right to tell it like it is. This is what I'm dealing with today. I just can't stand being around a lot of people right now, or I need to go for a walk. You have a right to tell it. You have a right to do things differently. And we'll talk about traditions and how so often sometimes those expectations can become extremely difficult in the midst of grief. You have the right to be where you want to be. Sometimes we just have to be at home or out at the cemetery or out taking a walk or someplace that gives us comfort and makes us feel connected to our loved ones. You have the right to have some fun. You have the right to change directions in midstream. I might plan to take in an event and then all of a sudden say, I can't do it, I need to step away. You have the right to do that. You have the right to do things at different times. Let's do Thanksgiving on Sunday, not Thursday. Let's do Christmas on New Year's. You have a right to do those things differently to help you through this journey of grief. You have the right, you actually have the responsibility to rest, peace, and solitude. And you need to take care of yourself. And you have the right to do it differently again next year. This might change by next year. But you decide what works for you as you deal with grief. Think about it. And if you want to type in the chat box, you're more than welcome. But what are some of your greatest struggles or concerns as we come on to the holiday season? Thanksgiving, Christmas for some, even Veterans Day was difficult. But what are some of your big concerns? Think about that. Not having loved ones around that used to be there. Absolutely. Very clearly, there's people that will be missing. And that makes it really difficult. For some, it makes it feel like no one else is there. I remember my mom used to say the whole family, 25, 30 people in the house, and she said, I feel so lonely because my dad wasn't there. That's exactly the situation that we deal with at times. And so those are struggles. Other struggles include, the vacant chair around the Thanksgiving table. Who's going to cut the turkey? Major changes in family dynamics with the loss of a family member. Absolutely. All those different things we don't really talk about, it seems like. We run around too much and get burnt out trying to see everyone. Taking care of everyone else, some of you do a lot of that. I work with some of you. You are guilty of taking care of everyone else, but not yourself. And so this is a time, as we look at that Bill of Rights, this is a time where you learn to take care of yourself and trying to please others. Absolutely. So think about that. I boil it down into 4 different components. One is preparation or anticipation. And how will your holidays look different as you deal with grief and loss? Or will they? Some people just keep it the same because they don't want to disrupt. Or remember, this is about taking care of yourself too. So how will holiday preparation look different this year? As we think about preparation or anticipation, think about it. I think, first of all, we need to know when your holidays are, those special days. Holidays are those times when family and friends get together and have fun. I think it's important. Holidays can be anniversary dates. And for veterans, they have some anniversary dates that we don't have. And learning how to recognize those things. Birthdays can be very difficult. Anniversaries of the death can be extremely significant, even 40, 50 years later. I don't know why, but I just woke up feeling very displaced this morning. And then you realize what day it is on the calendar. And so prepare yourself, maybe even putting it on your calendar so you're prepared for this. Begin to prepare some coping strategies. What am I going to do on this anniversary this year? What am I going to do at Christmas? How are we going to celebrate but also remember? One of the biggest misconceptions I hear is you should try not to think about the person who died on holidays, anniversaries, and birthdays. It is natural for grief to well up inside you, especially on these significant dates and times. I mean, think about it. Where does the headache go or the heartache go if you don't let it out naturally? And so think about those. I'm making a remembrance, talking about good times, really important. Never forget them. You know, one of the biggest fears we have is that these loved ones are going to be forgotten. And so we have to find ways to remember and find people that are willing to listen to us. So remember, feelings are honest expressions of who you are. You shouldn't try to deny that. You can decide what you can handle. Make a list. One party this year, one concert this year. I'm going to cut back on my shopping. All these things, you know, what can you handle? I'm not going to send out any Christmas cards this year. That's very appropriate. We'll talk about that. Because if we talk about preparation, we also talk about expectations or traditions, which I believe probably is one of the biggest struggles for most people. We talked about doing things differently, you know, maintaining traditions that feel comforting and letting go of those things that don't feel right, or at least not this year. You know, think about it. Get-togethers, holiday traditions. How will the death of a loved one affect who you'll be getting together with? That can even change who's there or who isn't, or what places that you are involved with. How will that death affect your get-togethers? Is it going to create some awkwardness with certain guests or family members this year because of the death? Think about that. Christmas cards. How are you going to sign the cards? You know, for those that have lost their partners, probably one of the most difficult things, and we're going to talk about triggers in a few minutes, one of the most difficult things is getting those cards and having you and your loved one on that card. Some people send out a little funeral announcement in their cards this year, or a photo memory card. Maybe asking for help. You know, some of you have family members or friends. Can you come and help me? I want to get my cards out, but I just don't want to do it alone this year. You know, do what works for you. Decorating. Some people go above and beyond when decorating. I love to decorate. But I tell you what, sometimes there's a time and a place, especially when we deal with loss, to say, simple is better. And maybe you'll decorate because you love to decorate, and that's a way for you to express your grief. But many don't pull out anything that first year after a death. Will I have a tree? Will I have ornaments? Will we give away gifts? You know, decorations and shopping, gift giving. You don't need to purchase a gift for everyone this year. It doesn't make you a Scrooge if you say, I just don't want to do that this year. Gift giving can be one of the most difficult things when you're dealing with the loss of a loved one, especially a partner. Personal messages in a card or simple gifts for family. Finances might become an issue. Going from one income to two, very difficult. Losing half your pension. People don't consider that, but you have to live with that. Don't bankrupt yourself just to make other people happy, especially as you're dealing with grief. Holiday baking and cooking. Some of us love to cook. Some of us love to bake and that express ourselves, but sometimes it's difficult. I always did this together with my partner. She made the pies, I did the turkey. One of my friends said that that first year after the loss of her husband, she said, we chose not to have turkey. We had meatloaf. And I know, she says, I know it broke the tradition, but I just could not stick that turkey in the oven this year. And that's okay. That is your holiday Bill of Rights, by the way. Taking care of yourself, doing it your way is all right, and you have permission as you deal with grief. You can develop some new traditions. Maybe lighting a special candle or creating a special ornament to honor and recognize that loved one. For years, I participated in the Blue Christmas in our community, where we put together a service providing comfort and joy and hope for those that were grieving during the holidays. You see, holidays are not happy days for everyone. Christmas stocking with their name on it, listening to the loved one's music, or looking at old photos and leaving them out. Providing an empty chair might be a way that you honor that loved one that isn't there this year. Like Ken says, we don't want to forget them. And so we find ways to do that. Another tradition that might be very helpful is giving back to others as you deal with your own grief. Adopting a needy family, or inviting guests over. Volunteering at a soup kitchen or homeless shelter. Giving gifts in memory of loved ones. We give away Gideon Bibles most years, especially when we lose people. And we have people from all over the country because of places we've served. And so we give gifts in that way to let them know they're still thought about. Donating monies to charities. For some of you, maybe even getting out there and ringing that Salvation Army bell is a way that you can honor your loved one this time of year. Helping other people. Certain faith traditions have great ways of mourning and remembering. The Kaddish in the grief community, or the Jewish community, is a huge way that they, for a full year, they honor that person's grief. We have children to consider, ways to help them as they grieve, because we can't ignore that. If you have children, how can they express their sadness? And let people know that tears are okay. And so, finding activities for them. Again, they can be involved. They can write a note or draw a picture. Taking them to the cemetery to visit that graveside. They can leave something there for that special someone. Ask yourself, take a few minutes. Are there some things you're considering doing differently this year as you think about grief and loss? And I don't care if this is grief and loss just happened this year or if it's been 40 years. Sometimes it reappears for us. And some years are much more difficult. And yet you claim the holiday Bill of Rights to say, I can do it differently this year. Anything you're considering doing differently this year as you deal with grief and loss? Think about that. If you want to put something in the chat box, you're more than welcome to. I know some of us are better than others in dealing with the chat box too, but you're more than welcome to do that. You have the right to do it differently this year. Just remember that. But explain to your family why. New orders and tracker, thank you. Yeah. I'm not sure what that was about, but I don't think it was for us, but here it came. We have preparation. We have expectations. We have triggers. What are some triggers for your grief and emotions? Think about that. What triggers you? What brings the tears or just overwhelming emotions? We call them tear bursts or grief bursts. Times in life when the grief seems more accentuated. Times when you feel like you're going crazy because you just can't seem to get it under control. Maybe things that happen. October is always a bad month for us as we deal with triggers because we had a number of loved ones that have died in October. When you see someone else enjoying the time, absolutely, Ken, I hear this time and time again in my grief groups as they talk about, it's really hard to watch other people enjoying this time of the year because I'm sad. Talking about them is really important, and that also triggers us. Music is a huge trigger. I know people walk into Walmart and they have certain music on and they have to walk right back out. My mom did this or my mom did that. I don't have one. That's so hard. You know, all those different things are pieces of this. Movies are pictures. This time of year, of course, every Christmas movie Hallmark has a happy ending. And that makes it hard. And they all look so happy. Everyone seems joyful and happy. Again, cards addressed to the person who died, that can be really triggering for us. There's a lot of things that can trigger. Even pulling out ornaments to put them on the tree and remembering where this one came from can be a huge trigger. Sometimes it just hits us like a grief burst where it becomes uncontrollable. Don't be afraid of your feelings. Love does not end with death. Feelings, whatever they are all a natural part of our loss. Learn how to express them, sometimes in private, sometimes in public. Ignoring feelings do not make them go away. We have to learn how to step into our grief, to walk through that grief journey. We can't avoid it. It eventually will catch up with us. Ways to express those: writing, sharing, meditating, being active. Poetry, some people use. Last year I spent alone time, no decorations or baking. I got 2 gift cards for my kids and just pretended the holiday did not exist. Absolutely. We do it the way that we need to, and I think that's important, Maria. I appreciate you saying that because we got to take care of ourselves. And again, you can do it again differently this year, but you find what works for you. Recognize the holidays will probably never be the same, but that's okay. You can create new traditions even because of that. Don't feel that if you're able to enjoy yourself, that's disrespectful. I just remind you too, if you enjoy some of the pieces of the holiday, that's okay. And your loved ones probably would want that. As we've related to veterans that have lost battle buddies, again, what are ways to embrace the memories but to honor them? Memories are one of the best legacies that exist after the death of someone. Sharing these memories with family and friends. Memories bring happiness and sadness. Memories that were made in love, no one can take them away. Hold on to them, share them with people, especially people willing to listen. There'll be some that don't want to hear it anymore. In fact, there's probably going to be at least one family member that says you need to get over this. And I remind you, you don't get over grief. You learn how to manage it. Some days are going to be harder than others, even 40, 50 years later. And as we think about honoring our loved ones, find a place that you can feel a greater connection with them or something. We use the term linking objects that remind you of your loved ones. And maybe you want to put that out this time of year to remember. So you embrace those memories, you don't avoid them. Don't put the pictures away. It's okay to have them out and to talk about those loved ones, but you do it your way. Don't feel guilty about how you feel. These are your feelings. You don't have to feel guilty about them. Others have their expectations about grief. You walk your journey. Remember, grief is like a fingerprint. Okay? We all do it differently. And for those of you that are helping others walk this journey, be supportive, be comforting, be willing to listen, be willing to allow them to share those wonderful memories. And avoid those who rush you through grief, encourage you to be done with it. Because that is not what a grief journey looks like. And when people say you need to be done with it, what I hear is they don't want to hear those memories anymore. So think about, what are some possible triggers for grief for you? What are some of the triggers that you have? Think about that. One final area is safety. Preparation, expectations, triggers, and now safety. Taking care of yourself during grief. I've said that several times here in our presentation today. Consider how you can stay healthy. Grief causes susceptibility to illness. It's not healthy to expect that you can do all the things you used to do. So learn to pace yourself. Be patient with yourself. Try to get plenty of sleep because sleep might be difficult. Eat more healthy, exercise. Try not to isolate. Spiritual renewal, connection with faith communities can be extremely valuable. Okay? But avoid overindulgence of alcohol and food during the holidays. And I'm preaching to the choir here as I say, don't overindulge with food. It's easy to do, especially over the holidays, especially when we're dealing with grief. Sometimes it's easy to hide our sorrows in eating. And so an easy way of avoiding or masking underlying emotions. And so use moderation here. Working more hours to avoid feeling pain isn't always helpful. Brief distractions can help, but if you continue on, it's going to catch up with you. Overactivities, church activities, holiday events, volunteering, you need to have even moderation in those areas. Spending money on things that you don't need or money you don't have. These are ways that people compensate, but it isn't always healthy. And so learn safety, taking care of yourself. What are some ways that you can take care of yourself this year? Think about that. For my wife, it's just a good massage. Scheduling a massage for her is something that really helps her as she deals with the stresses of life, but also sometimes grief. So find something that works for you. For me, it's going for a walk. Just getting out in the outdoors, even if it's cold out. Sometimes that cold just wakes me up to what I can be grateful for. Preparation, expectations, triggers, safety. I remind you, as you deal with grief, take it a day at a time. You don't have to look at yesterday. You don't have to look at tomorrow. You have to live today for this moment. And you work to define what that's going to look like. Be realistic. It's going to be painful at times. Grief is painful. It's going to be hard. It's going to carry a lot of different emotions, from anger to sadness to frustration to maybe even an element of joy or peace. Be good to yourself. Sometimes you learn by doing or trying. So try things to see what brings me peace now. And know that whatever you choose to do this year, you can change it again next year. You see, traditions can be changed. First holiday without both parents, just feeling very alone. Absolutely. If someone told me when my mom died and my dad had died years ago that I'm an orphan, and it's like, oh, wow, you are exactly right. And no family home to go celebrate to. Hard to see everyone else making plans to go home. Feeling like that's no longer your home. Those are, Kelly, great examples. But yeah, we feel very lost or disconnected with some of those things. And I think some might be more so than others. For me, it was a huge disconnection. As we wrap things up, I just remind you some tiny Thanksgiving grief reminders. It says, first of all, holidays after loss are always hard. Go easy on yourself. It might be a hard day, but you have survived hard days before. You have permission to change your minds about plans, take breaks, leave early, prioritize how you're going to take care of yourself. You're not responsible to meet anyone else's holiday wants at the expense of your own. Just remember that. Guilt about enjoying holidays sometimes comes up in grief. If it does, look at numbers 6 through 8. Your connection to your loved one does not live in your pain. It lives in your love for them, your memories, and the way they live on in and through your life. Your ability to find gratitude and make space for joy in a world without your loved one is not a betrayal. And then finally, your grief and your love for the person you've loved will always live fully and alongside or deeply alongside your joy. Grief, joy, and gratitude. 2 spaces here. Gratitude helps us make space for joy, but we don't totally disengage with the grief. And sometimes it just means sharing a story. What can I do for others who grieve? I think probably the greatest thing you can do is listen. Don't try to fix. Don't tell them to get over it. Don't tell them, don't cry. Because it is okay to cry. Do what feels right to you. Remember that your emotions are normal. Take care of yourself and let this be a season of hope as you hold yourself with love and you hold on to those that you love. My husband's birthday is December 23rd. I get angry thinking about why he is no longer here. My favorite thing to do now is to isolate. Absolutely. Maybe not the healthiest, but maybe the most logical at times. So finding things to put in that place. But yeah, creates anger for us. And it's okay to say, I get angry. Okay? Questions, comments as we think about grief. I'm going to stop sharing because I want to put a few things in the box. I think I tried to get them in there once, but I want to make sure they got there because, quite honestly, they don't always stay where they belong. Let's see here. I have a couple different flyers or pamphlets that I put out, that I put in the box. Let me try to put them in one more time. One's called The Time for Us, Grief and Support. It's just a reminder that and if you'd like me to just send them to you by email, you can just put your email in the box as well, and I'll send out these flyers to you so you get them directly as well. Second one's called Coping with Grief During the Holidays. The pictures are more important than the storyline, by the way. And the last one called Handling Grief in the Holidays. And I didn't come up with all these by myself, but I've kind of improvised over the years and done some revisions on there. So questions, comments that you might have?